The first thing he ever said to me was, "I can afford anyone I want. Don't screw this up." That should have been my cue to walk away. But I was broke, rent was overdue, and he was waving 5 grand in cash like it was pocket change. So I ignored the red flags, shook his hand, and that handshake would lead to the nastiest, most satisfying revenge I've ever served. Before I dive in, if you're into real stories of revenge, justice, and karma catching up with smug jerks like this guy, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what's coming next. Trust me, it gets wild. So here's how it all started. A few years back, I was freelancing full-time. Mostly website work, building out sites for small businesses, local shops, the occasional startup. Not glamorous, but it paid the bills. Most of the time. Then he showed up. Name was Kyle. Mid-30s, slick hair, designer watch, driving a jet black Lamborghini that looked like it hadn't touched a single pothole in its life. He found me through a local freelancer site and messaged me with this vague proposal. I need a website for a new luxury brand. Fast turnaround. Big payout. We hop on a call, and he's smooth. Too smooth. You ever talk to someone who tries to sound like they're your best friend in 5 minutes? That was Kyle. He name-dropped companies he'd worked with, mentioned he was well-connected, and said money wasn't an issue. Except, it always is, right? Still, he offered $5,000 up front, with another $5,000 when it was done. He even sent me photos of the cash, just sitting on his kitchen counter like it was nothing. And like an idiot, I believed him. I sent over the contract, standard stuff. 50% up front, final payment on delivery. He signed it. But then he said, "Hey, I just moved some cash around. Can I pay you the full amount once it's finished?" I swear I'm good for it. Red flag number 2. Maybe 3. But I caved. I've been burned before, I told him. I get it, he said. But I'm not some broke wannabe. You'll get your money. I don't stiff people. Lies. So I built the site. Poured my time into it. His luxury brand turned out to be a sketchy-looking crypto merch store, but I made it look clean, modern, expensive. He loved it. Called it exactly what I needed. Asked for a few tweaks. I did him. Then, radio silence. I sent the final invoice. Nothing. Followed up. Nothing. A week goes by. Then 2. Finally, I message him from a new number, and boom, he replies immediately. "Oh hey, just been swamped. We'll send payment this week." He didn't. That's when the switch flipped. I started researching him, digging through his online profiles, old business pages, LinkedIn, anything I could find. And I found something weird. A review from another freelancer. Kyle ghosted me after I built his Shopify store. Never paid. Then another. Avoid Kyle at all costs. He's a scammer. I wasn't the first. And I had a feeling I wouldn't be the last. But I wasn't going to let him walk away this time. Not with my money. Not without a fight. I'll be real with you. At first, I thought maybe he just forgot. Maybe he was one of those rich clowns who gets distracted by shiny things and forgets they owe you thousands of dollars. But after finding those reviews, this wasn't forgetfulness. This was a routine. Kyle wasn't some careless client. He was a predator. And people like him count on guys like me being too busy, too broke, or too intimidated to fight back. Well, not this time. I started pulling threads. You'd be amazed how much dirt you can dig up on someone with just a name, a LinkedIn page, and a couple burner Reddit accounts. I found 3 different aliases he used in the past 5 years: Kyle J, K, Jordan, and KJJ Media Group. All of them were tied to similar startups that disappeared 6 months after launch. I tracked down a guy named Marcus who left one of those angry reviews. He turned out to be a freelance graphic designer from Texas. I messaged him, just hoping for a little context. Instead, I got a full story. Turns out, Kyle hired Marcus 2 years ago to do branding for a fake tech launch. Logo, pitch deck, packaging mock-ups, the works. Kyle promised $2,000, said it would scale later, and ghosted him after using the designs in a fake investor pitch. Never paid. Marcus even sent me screenshots of their emails. Same excuses. Same tone. Same script. That's when I realized. Kyle repeats this. He builds fake businesses, hires real people to make them look legit, and then bails once he's gotten what he wants. And he's been doing it for years. I felt sick. And then I got pissed. I made a spreadsheet. Yeah, I know, super nerdy, but I was done being passive. I started logging everything. Dates, emails, messages, screenshots, who he scammed, for how much, and when. Over 2 weeks, I found 7 other freelancers, a copywriter, 2 devs, a social media strategist, another web designer, even a photographer from Miami. Every single one of them got stiffed. The crazy part? None of them ever filed a lawsuit. Why? Because Kyle always stayed just under the radar. He'd never rack up more than $4,000 to $5,000 in unpaid invoices per person, and he used contracts that were vague enough to make court look like a hassle. That was his game. Scam small, often, and count on people being too tired or too poor to pursue him. But I wasn't alone anymore. I got the others on a group call. We shared our stories, our contracts, our screenshots. It was like group therapy, only angrier. Most of them had moved on, but when I told them I was building a case, and that I had a lawyer friend willing to look into it pro bono, they were in. One guy, Jonah, still had a folder of PDFs Kyle accidentally sent him, one of which included another contract between Kyle and some influencer. It had signatures, dates, and something weird, the same project name used in 2 different agreements with 2 different vendors. That's borderline fraud. And suddenly, this wasn't just about unpaid invoices. It was about intentional deception, and that's where things get interesting legally. I sent everything to my lawyer buddy, Sam. He read through the contracts, the messages, the spreadsheet, all of it. Called me back and called me the same night. His first words? This guy's a walking lawsuit. He'd seen enough. He said the contracts Kyle used were shady as hell, probably written to confuse freelancers who didn't read the fine print. But the evidence I gathered, especially those overlapping project names and conflicting contracts, was solid gold. You've got a civil fraud case, Sam told me. Not just breach of contract. If we play this right, we can go after him hard. Now, I'm not a legal expert. I'm just a web guy who got stiffed. But Sam broke it down in a way even I could understand. If someone intentionally misleads you with the goal of profiting while avoiding their obligation to pay, that's more than just a payment dispute. That's fraud. And Kyle had done it to multiple people. I got fired up. Finally, it wasn't just me yelling into the void. I had proof. I had backup. I had a damn legal strategy. But first, I wanted to give Kyle one last chance to do the right thing, or at least dig himself deeper. So I sent him a message. Hey Kyle, final invoice attached. Payment's 2 weeks overdue. Please settle by Friday, or I'll be forced to escalate this legally. He replied 5 minutes later. No lie, 5 minutes. And you know what he said? You serious? LOL. I've got lawyers who'd make you cry in court. Do what you gotta do, bro. That bro really pissed me off. He didn't even deny it. He knew he wasn't going to pay. He was daring me, mocking me, like I was just another small-time freelancer who'd eventually give up and disappear. He had no clue I'd already been talking to half a dozen people he screwed over. No idea I was building a legal war machine in the background. So I played dumb. Okay, I understand. Just needed clarification. Thanks for the response. He didn't respond after that. But I wasn't done. I updated the spreadsheet, cross-referenced timelines, pulled metadata from old PDFs he sent, and found even more connections between his fake businesses. Turns out, one of the LLCs he used for a fashion launch had been dissolved months before he hired me. He'd hired me under a non-existent company. That's a legal no-no. Meanwhile, Sam was drafting a formal demand letter, one that laid out all the details in legalese sharp enough to cut steel. Fraud, pattern of behavior, witnesses, documentation, everything. We included every victim who agreed to sign on. And the damages? We weren't just asking for what Kyle owed us. We were asking for everything the law would allow. Compensation, punitive damages, legal fees, interest. Basically, we were setting him up for a financial punch to the face. And right before we were about to send it, Kyle posted a photo on Instagram. Him, in Miami, poolside, holding a glass of champagne with a caption that said, "Real bosses don't worry about the little guys." I screenshotted it. Sam laughed out loud when he saw it. Thanks, idiot. You just gave us motive, arrogance, and evidence in one post. That photo would later show up in court. But we're not there yet. Next step, send the demand letter. And wait to see if this smug jerk would finally panic. Spoiler, he did. But not in the way I expected. After that Instagram post, I didn't say a word to Kyle. Not a text. Not an email. I went completely silent. And that's exactly what he wanted. He probably assumed I'd finally backed off, accepted the loss, maybe even blocked him out of shame. Guys like him thrive on that. They poke you until you snap, And when you don't, they think they've won. But I wasn't done. I was just getting strategic. See, I didn't want a petty fight. I didn't care about trashing his name on social media or posting angry rants on Reddit. I wanted something bigger, something permanent, something that would make sure he couldn't do this to anyone ever again. So while he was out popping champagne and grinning like a discount Bond villain, I was putting together a legal sledgehammer. Sam helped me craft a bulletproof timeline. We gathered notarized statements from the freelancers Kyle had ghosted. 6 of them agreed to sign under oath. One even sent over a screen recording of a Zoom call with Kyle where he promised payment as soon as the launch hits. Boom, recorded lie. And the best part? Sam found a loophole that made everything way more painful for Kyle than just a regular small claims lawsuit. Instead of filing a basic non-payment claim, we built the case around civil fraud and tortious interference. Basically, the legal way of saying, this guy lied on purpose and used that lie to damage others' ability to earn income. Why does that matter? Because it opens the door to punitive damages. We're not just talking about getting paid what I was owed. We're talking about triple that amount, maybe more. And here's where it gets even juicier. One of the dissolved companies Kyle used to hire me, Sam found out it was involved in a previous lawsuit 2 years ago for the exact same thing. And in that case, Kyle settled out of court and had the record sealed. We just cracked his whole playbook. But this time, I wasn't settling. Sam filed the lawsuit in the county where Kyle's last business was registered, Florida. We had all the contracts, all the texts, the ghosting patterns, and the proof he used shell companies to avoid legal accountability. I even found a domain registration linked to one of his fake brands. Guess whose name was on the hosting info? Yep, Kyle himself. Under his personal email. It was amateur hour on his end. All flash, no substance. Once the court accepted the case, we served him the papers, official notice of the lawsuit. And let me tell you, it felt amazing. He got served at a beach club. Yeah, we had the server find him during some business mixer where he was trying to look like the king of crypto brothers. Right there, in front of a bunch of half-drunk networkers, he got handed the envelope. The photos were priceless. I didn't post them anywhere, obviously. I'm not trying to get sued myself, but I still smile thinking about his face. And still, he didn't say a word. Not to me, not to Sam, but we knew he'd seen it. Because 1 week later, his lawyer sent an email. A short one, just 5 words. My client is willing to talk. And buddy, I was ready to talk too, but not to play nice. The moment I got that email from Kyle's lawyer, my client is willing to talk, I knew the tide had turned. This wasn't cocky, champagne-popping Kyle anymore. This was the version of him that realized, too late, that his little scam had turned into a legal firestorm. And I was holding the match. Sam read the email and just smirked. They're fishing, he said. They want to know how much damage we're capable of. So, we let them sweat. We waited 3 days to respond, on purpose. Not because we were busy, because we wanted them to feel the pressure, to wonder if maybe we were preparing something worse. Spoiler, we were. Then Sam sent a polite, professional reply. We're open to discussions. However, please be advised that our complaint is being amended to include multiple victims and patterns of civil fraud. We'd be happy to discuss resolution, but only under full transparency. Translation, you better come clean, or we're dragging this all the way to hell. Within hours, Kyle's lawyer asked for a call. He wanted to talk settlement. And I was like, oh, now you want to talk? We got on Zoom. Sam represented me, and I sat quietly off camera, just listening. Kyle didn't show up, of course, but his lawyer was every bit the smooth operator I expected. Calm voice, practiced charm, lots of let's keep this civil talk. He offered us a settlement. $5,000. $5,000. I almost laughed out loud. That wasn't even what Kyle owed me alone, let alone the others. This wasn't an offer. It was an insult. Sam didn't flinch. Unfortunately, that figure is far below the damages we're seeking. Considering this involves multiple victims, fraudulent representations, and loss of income, we're not interested in anything that doesn't reflect the full scope of harm. The lawyer asked, what would it take to resolve this quietly? Sam said, high 5 figures. Minimum. That's when the call ended. And guess what happened next? The freelancer group I'd been working with, those other victims, they started leaking our case to contractor forums, freelancer subreddits, even a few industry Facebook groups. Nothing illegal, no documents, Just the basic story of how this guy had scammed multiple people under different LLCs and brands. And word spread like wildfire. I didn't post anything myself. Didn't need to. The community took over. People started tagging his business pages, warning others. A couple of influencers he'd tried to partner with pulled out of deals. One of his old brands quietly deleted its Instagram. Another site he ran suddenly went offline. The dude was bleeding. And the best part? We hadn't even gone to court yet. Behind the scenes, more victims came forward. People we hadn't even found started reaching out. One woman said he owed her for a PR campaign she ran 3 years ago. Another claimed he used a fake bank transfer to pretend he paid her, then blocked her. He had a whole trail of destruction behind him. And now it was all unraveling. Kyle still hadn't said a word to me. But I didn't need him to. He was finally on the run. And I was just getting started. If Kyle thought this was just some empty threat from a bitter freelancer, the lawsuit filing made it very real. It landed in the county court system the following Monday. Official, public, and undeniable. Our complaint was nearly 30 pages long, packed with screenshots, signed affidavits, timelines, and a full breakdown of his entire con operation. Every fake company name, every unpaid contract, every shady email where he promised to send payment next week. Sam crafted it like a sword, precise, sharp, and absolutely lethal. And because we filed under civil fraud instead of just non-payment, Kyle couldn't just ignore it like a small claims nuisance. He had to respond, legally, or face a default judgment that could wreck whatever empire he thought he had. That was step 1. Step 2? Let the world know who they were dealing with. Now, again, I didn't leak anything. I kept my hands clean. But those other freelancers? They were done being quiet. One guy posted a now viral Reddit thread titled, "This dude scammed 8 of us." So we took him to court. It blew up overnight. Screenshots of contracts, blurred out names, timelines, and just enough redacted details to keep it legal, but juicy enough to get attention. Thousands of upvotes. Hundreds of comments from other freelancers sharing similar horror stories. Turns out, Kyle wasn't the only scammer out there. But we were one of the few who actually fought back. And it made him squirm. Within days, Kyle wiped all his social media. Instagram, gone. Twitter, deactivated. His LinkedIn turned into a ghost town. That fake luxury brand he hired me to build a website for, deleted. But that wasn't the part that got me grinning. No, that came when I found out his business checking account had been frozen. Sam explained it. Once the fraud claim was filed and backed by multiple affidavits, we petitioned the court to temporarily restrict his access to business assets. Not every judge would grant it, but ours did, because we showed intent to deceive and ongoing damage. He couldn't touch his own money. He couldn't pay contractors, couldn't pay vendors, couldn't even process credit card sales for the few sites he still had running. Everything started locking down. And then came the email. Not from Kyle, from another one of his brands. A woman named Melissa reached out. She said she ran a small marketing agency and had been working with one of Kyle's businesses. She'd just gotten word that payments were bouncing, and she wanted to know if our lawsuit was real. I told her the truth. It's very real. And he's been doing this for years. Her reply? Then I'm joining the case. He owes us $9,800. Boom. Another one added to the list. Kyle was unraveling. One of the last updates I got that week was from a vendor site where Kyle had listed his branding agency. His account? Banned. Someone had submitted the court documents, and the platform suspended him for fraud. That was the beauty of doing this by the book. It wasn't loud or dramatic. It was slow, methodical, and devastating. He'd built his little empire on lies, and we were kicking out the foundation. And soon, everything he built would come crashing down. About a week after the lawsuit dropped and his accounts started freezing, Kyle finally broke the silence. He emailed Sam directly this time. No lawyers, no middleman, just a desperate little note that started with, "Hey, can we talk privately?" Oh, how the mighty fall. This was the same guy who'd once bragged about his legal team, making me cry in court. Now he was bypassing his own attorney, trying to slide into my lawyer's inbox like we were old buddies just having a misunderstanding. Sam didn't even blink. "He's cornered," he said. "But we're not showing mercy. Not yet." Still, Sam replied, professionally, of course. Told him if he had a settlement proposal, it needed to be in writing and sent through proper legal channels. No backdoor deals. No shady handshakes. Kyle waited another 2 days. Then came the offer, $12,000, split between everyone. Let me put that into perspective. Just my original invoice alone was $10,000. Add on damages, legal fees, interest, and the number of freelancers involved. This offer wasn't even a quarter of what he owed. It was a joke, but it told me something important. He was sweating badly. So, while Kyle scrambled, I went in for the next move, reputation ruin. I didn't post anything, but I helped others format their testimonials. Our group collected every email, invoice, and text message into a clean timeline. One of the victims had a friend at a mid-sized business magazine, and within days, a headline hit the web. The luxury lie: how one con man built a brand on unpaid labor. Boom. It didn't name Kyle directly, yet, but the details were unmistakable to anyone who'd worked with him, and people started connecting the dots. Even a couple of his former business partners reached out to me anonymously, saying they had also been burned. Turns out, Kyle didn't just scam freelancers. He conned investors too. I forwarded the magazine link to Sam, and he immediately flagged it as useful in court, proof of broader harm, community impact, and a pattern of deception. And just like that, things got worse for Kyle. A supplier dropped him. Then a payment processor cut ties with his agency. Then someone leaked one of our affidavits to a freelancer legal blog, which ran a feature titled, "The Freelancer Scam You Need to See to Believe." Kyle tried to release a statement on a throwaway site claiming we were extorting him, but nobody bought it. The damage was done. His Google results were poisoned. His business email stopped working. Even one of his fake LLCs got flagged by a watchdog group. And still, he begged us to settle. He sent one last offer, $25,000. Total. That's it. No admission of guilt. Just a payout to end the headache. But this wasn't about the money anymore. This was about making sure he never did this again. Sam and I looked at the offer, then looked at each other, and we both said it. Let's take it to court. The day we went to court, I wore the same outfit I wore when I first met Kyle. Button down, dark jeans, no flashy watches. Just clean, simple, and professional. Why? Because I wanted to remind myself who I was back then, the broke, overworked freelancer he thought he could stomp all over. But this time, I wasn't walking into a meeting hoping to get paid. I was walking into a courtroom to bury him. It was a civil court, nothing fancy. No dramatic jury box, no booming judge's gavel. Just a judge, some lawyers, a clerk, and the man who'd spent years screwing over good people thinking he was too slick to get caught. Kyle showed up. Late, of course. He looked rough. Gone was the Miami tan and cocky smile. His hair was messy, the suit clearly rented, and the dude was sweating through his shirt before the judge even said a word. I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. Sam came prepared. Organized. Ruthless. He laid out our case with precision, like a sniper laying in wait for the shot. He walked the judge through the entire timeline. Emails. Contracts. Patterns. He showed how Kyle used dissolved LLCs, how he reused the same fake project under different names, and how every action pointed to deliberate fraud, not just poor business practices. Then came the witness statements. We had 4 freelancers appear in person. 2 more submitted sworn affidavits. One of them, a middle-aged woman named Linda, got emotional on the stand. She talked about how Kyle promised to pay her for a rush job before Christmas, how she stayed up 3 nights straight just to deliver in time. He never paid her. The judge listened, took notes, and I swear, for a moment, I saw his expression go from neutral to furious. Then Sam introduced the Instagram photo. Yeah, that one. Kyle. Poolside. Champagne in hand. Captioned, "Real bosses don't worry about the little guys." The room went quiet. Sam said, this photo was posted days after he refused to pay multiple contractors, and while one had already contacted him about non-payment. We believe it demonstrates intent, arrogance, and willful disregard for ethical business conduct. Kyle's lawyer objected, something about irrelevance, but the judge allowed it. "I'd like to see where this fits," he said. It fit. Then came the real punch, the financials. Sam presented evidence that Kyle funneled payments through shell accounts, overbilled one investor by nearly $20,000, and had transferred business funds to his personal crypto wallet just days after stiffing us. It was everything. Laid out. Undeniable. And Kyle? He looked like he was going to be sick. When his lawyer tried to defend him, it was weak. He blamed miscommunication, bad bookkeeping. and tried to play the small business card. But the judge wasn't buying it. At one point, the judge interrupted and asked, "Did your client inform any of these freelancers that the companies hiring them were no longer active?" Dead silence. Then, "No, Your Honor." Boom. We had him. Everything we'd been building was leading to this. And as the judge prepared to give his ruling, you could feel the air in the room shift. Kyle's bravado? Gone. His lawyer? Defeated. Me? I sat there, steady, focused, and ready, because justice was about to hit. The moment the judge opened his mouth, time slowed down. I'd been waiting for this day for months, building the case, enduring the stress, watching Kyle duck, lie, and manipulate like it was second nature. And now, he couldn't run, couldn't hide behind some LLC, couldn't bro his way out of it. This was the moment. The judge looked directly at Kyle and said, "This court finds the defendant acted with intent to deceive, to financially exploit independent contractors, and to misrepresent the legitimacy of his businesses. The pattern of behavior is clear." Kyle looked like a man watching his life cave in. Then came the ruling. Full damages. Every single dollar of unpaid invoices for all plaintiffs. Punitive damages. 3 times the amount of actual damages. Legal fees. Covered. In full. And then, the final blow. An order to freeze and liquidate assets from his shell companies to satisfy the judgment. The total? Just under $118,000. Kyle's jaw dropped. His lawyer slumped in his chair. And me? I didn't cheer. Didn't smirk. I just exhaled. For the first time in months, I could breathe. All the anger, all the stress, gone. Replaced by cold, clean justice. But it didn't stop there. Over the next few weeks, the ruling hit his world like a wrecking ball. A lien was placed on his remaining business accounts. His luxury car? Repossessed. The Miami condo he leased under a business name? Evicted. One of the investors who saw the court decision filed their own lawsuit. It was over. The illusion of success, the Lamborghini, the champagne, the fake brands, it all collapsed. Because it was never real to begin with. Just a smoke show built on other people's labor and unpaid bills. I got my money. So did the other freelancers. And Kyle? The last I heard, he was trying to start another company under a new alias. But thanks to that viral article and the public court ruling, his name was toast. Every time someone Googled him, they saw the truth. No more hiding. And here's the best part. I didn't just win in court. I won in life. The money I got from the case, I used it to upgrade my equipment, build a legit portfolio, and start my own small agency. Within 6 months, I was booked out with clients who respected me, paid on time, and knew my worth. I even got interviewed on a podcast about freelance scams and how to protect yourself. I wasn't just a victim anymore. I was the guy who fought back and won. And Kyle, he'll never forget my name. You ever look back on something that broke you and realize it built you too? That's how I feel about all of this. About Kyle. The lies. The court. The stress. The long nights. The money I thought I'd never see again. All of it. Because in trying to take me down, he handed me the blueprint to rise up. After the case wrapped, I had 2 choices. Sit on the money and play it safe, or build something that no scammer could ever take from me again. I chose the second one. I rebranded everything. My website, my rates, my onboarding process. I made contracts ironclad, built automation into my proposals, hired a virtual assistant to handle leads, and turned my solo freelance hustle into a small creative agency. Nothing fancy, just solid, smart, and mine. And business? Boomed. Turns out, when you go viral for taking down a scammer, people pay attention. Clients wanted to work with someone who stood up for themselves. My inbox was flooded with messages like, "Hey, I saw your story. I respect how you handled it. Can we work together?" The irony? Kyle's scam got me more real work than he ever did. But beyond the money, beyond the new clients, what changed most was me. I stopped undervaluing myself. I stopped being afraid to say no. I stopped letting people walk all over me just because I needed a paycheck. I started trusting myself more, charging what I'm worth, walking away from red flags instead of rationalizing them. And yeah, I still get jerks now and then, but I never, ever forget what it felt like to be used. I use that memory to protect others. I now give free workshops for new freelancers on how to spot scams, write bulletproof contracts, and build professional confidence. I've helped more than a few avoid walking the same path I did. And that's the most satisfying revenge of all. becoming someone unstoppable. So yeah, I lost sleep. I lost money. I lost patience. But I found purpose. I found clarity. And I found that no matter how slick someone looks in a suit or behind a screen, no one is untouchable. Not when you fight smart. So what do you think? Did I do the right thing? Would you have gone this far if someone scammed you? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoy true stories of revenge, justice, and karma finally catching up with the worst people, hit that subscribe button, drop a like, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. Your support helps me keep telling stories like this. And trust me, there are more coming.